shonga chuji anji podrana tuksen sanji ganji konyet razame shurga muzuma stunza pa sawe lama namla surate gerba sanji chua shigdanye nyamba drupa shomla tanta sanjine manere dambe chanso lodo chanso shabla surate Lame josame jamso doje tam shirke guru pema shumla chi shenru zinga gyawe nyuku ye tanta drupa tanjina drupara ho nanjin lame trambe kaje la kosuma charo shatro latso rale jana nepre tujo Toyo yurmi jiwara shinji lo. Everybody give rise to bodhicitta, to benefit countless suffering sentient beings. That all beings may be free from suffering and all its causes, that they may have happiness and all its causes. They may never be separated from the great happiness, devoid of suffering. They forever dwell in the great equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. And today, we carry on with the first verse. The practice of all bodhisattvas is to study, reflect, and meditate tirelessly both day and night, without ever straying into idleness, in order to free oneself that others from this ocean of saṃsāra, having gained the supreme vessel, a free, well-favoured human life, so difficult to find. Very important is that we transform our mind, we change our way of thinking, often changing the way we think upside down. Instead of being so selfish, thinking selfishly, what we do is dedicate our time or motivate ourselves or concentrate on transforming our negatives, transforming ourselves into, that we have positive ideas and positive motivations, and that we benefit others. And when we start to practice, it might feel a little bit uncomfortable. We might not be used to it. But it's important to go through those initial stages of feeling discomfort. When we try something new, when we do something new, it feels different. And sometimes it doesn't feel easy. Sometimes we don't easily embrace change. Just like going to the gym. When we go to the gym, we might feel a little bit stiff at first. We might not feel it's so easy, or like learning a language. At first we think, how am I ever going to know this language? But then after time, after a while, we get used to it. We're able to speak. Suddenly a year later, we know so many words. You think, wow, it wasn't so bad. It wasn't so bad at all. It just takes time. And why do we do? Because we have this motivation, the enthusiasm to do it. And the other is that we realize the benefits of doing it. So it's also important that we often practice forbearance. That we listen to what other people have to say. That we're not just always thinking about, what do I have to say back? How do I reply to this? Thinking about something else while somebody else is talking. This is often the case. And so we don't really listen to people. So it's important sometimes to try and deeply listen. What they say, deeply listen. To really listen to that person and not to say anything while they're talking. I know I can improve on it myself. And then you really hear what the person wants to say. And sometimes you don't have to answer. Sometimes when they speak to you, some people just want a sounding board. Sometimes then they speak to you, they find the answer themselves. And sometimes you can just wait and say, well, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. I'm not sure what I need to say, what is the best action, what I think is the best at the moment. And what people say, there's many different ideas, perspectives. We're full of different creativities. So what we think might not be the same as what other people think. There can be so many different ideas. So what we think is not always necessarily right. So it's important to also accept. It's also a way of offering what people put in front of us. Accept it. We don't have to say, I like it or I don't like it straight away. We can first let them put it in front of us. We accept it with gratitude. And then we can decide for ourselves whether we accept it or not, whether we think it's worthwhile spending time on, or if we believe in it, or we can decide how we want to react to this. So it's just like a meal. People put a meal in front of you. You can accept it with great gratitude. And then you can taste it and then decide, oh yes, this meal I really like. I'd like to eat it. Or no thank you, this doesn't suit me. So we have many things put in front of us all the time. Advertisements, things that we don't ask for, ideas of how we should look, how we should be dressing, what we should be doing to be successful, also put in front of us. These people are selling fear. If you don't have this, what happens if this goes wrong? This type of insurance. So all sorts of things are put in front of us. We don't ask for it to be put in front of us. Especially in media or in billboards. So it's up to us to decide, all right, it's in front of us. We decide, do we accept this or not? And when we're listening to people as well, it's also important that our mind is free of all these niggling thoughts, all of these different thoughts. Then we have a good chance to really listen to other people, really hear what they're saying. If our mind is full of all these niggly thoughts, little thoughts, the good chances, the more the little thoughts, the more they become big thoughts, the more they become actions, or the more energy they have, or the more strength they have. So we might follow, they might become actions of body, speech, and mind. So, and then we don't have freedom, we don't have peace in our mind. Are we that relaxed? But if we can let them go, then our mind, we're peaceful, our mind is relaxed. And we really hear more clearly. Maybe we hear more efficiently, more effectively. And do things more efficiently and effectively as well. So today, and it's also important that we really listen to the teachings, that we contemplate them. What is the meaning of these teachings? And really put them into practice. It's so important to put these practices into practice. This is where there's the real benefit. It's like if we have we know the book is there, we've read it, but when a problem arises, are we able to just suddenly go look for where's the book? Where was that's good information? How can I use it? Usually when the problems arise, our emotions arise, and very quickly, and we don't think about looking for a book. Or what was the answer to that as well? We get involved with those emotions. So it's very important to have it as practice, to take these teachings and really make it a practice. Then as problems arise or difficulties arise, we have it as a practice. We can automatically or very quickly apply these practices and resolve the emotional problems regarding what is going wrong or the negative thoughts. So we have, today's really about this precious human life. And we have this very precious human life. It's like this great opportunity. It is this like a ship, a precious jewel. With this precious ship, what we can do is we can move from the one shore to the next shore. We can go from being in the world of suffering and saṃsāra to enlightenment. We can cross the ocean of saṃsāra into enlightenment. So it's really of incredible benefit. That is, of course, if we use it properly. At the same time, if we don't use this properly, then we might feel regret afterwards, or we can really do many negative things. So, although with this precious human life we have the propensity to have great love, great kindness, really transform our negative emotions, really do a lot of positive, on the other side we also have the potential to do great negativity, to really harm others. And we've seen this in history. Some people really harm people. So it's important that we use it properly. It's like, and once we've got to the other side, we don't need the ship anymore. We can leave it there. When we get to the other side, we've crossed the waters, we don't carry the ship with us. We leave it there. So it's like also this precious jewel. It's like a precious jewel. There's a story of a beggar, and he's not very wealthy. Well, he's not wealthy at all. He just scrapes enough every day to eat something. He's got a little hut on this mountain, and usually has maybe something, just a little bit of bread and some water to eat. And he spends his days like this, begging for food. And then one day a stranger comes to his little hut and says, "Can I have some food?" And he looks at him and says, "What? This guy must be a bit crazy." He says, "Do you know that I'm this beggar? Do you know that I really don't have a lot?" And the beggar says, and the stranger says, "Yes, actually I do. I would like some food, please. If you can really help me, I would really appreciate it." So the beggar says, "Okay." He says, "Thinks so many people help me. What can I do for this stranger? This guy really doesn't know how poor I am." So he gets half of the bread that he gets together, a few slices, and he gives the stranger some water. And the stranger says, "Is this all you give me?" And he looks, he says, What's with this guy? I'm giving him half of what I've got to eat today, and he's still dissatisfied." So he sort of gets a little bit upset, and he says, "What do you mean? I'm giving you half of what I've got." And the stranger looks at him strangely and says, "What? You don't realize that you're very wealthy?" And he says, "Wealthy? Where am I wealthy? This is all I've got." And the stranger says, "Well, you know, your hut is on this land of precious stones." So he didn't realize his hut was on this land of precious stones. He didn't recognize it. He was actually very, very wealthy. So this is also with this precious human life. We have it. We have this life. So use it as best as possible. Sometimes we don't realize how precious it is. So sometimes it's good for people to tell us this life is very precious. And then we know, otherwise what we do is we waste this life. We waste it maybe running, chasing all sorts of pleasures, just working very hard, complaining, never being satisfied, dissatisfied with this or that, looking at the negatives all the time. So when we realize that this life is precious, then hopefully we use it doing things meaningfully that benefit others. So also it's very important when we are listening, when we're practicing, that we check our motivation. Is our motivation really in terms of the true Dharma? Are we really doing it to transform ourselves and to benefit others? And is this our sole purpose? Often it's not. We think maybe this is what we're really doing. But sometimes often it is mixed with worldly pursuits, with worldly concerns. So we might be thinking, wow, let me learn this Dharma. If I can teach well, I can benefit so many people. And then we can also start worrying about, well, what is my reputation going to be like? Will I be famous? Maybe I can get something nice to eat. So sometimes we mix. Maybe mix the Dharma with worldly concerns. We should never be teaching to benefit others, also with the motivation that maybe we can get something nice out of it. This should never be the concern. Sometimes what we're doing is really totally with worldly concerns. Concern fame, reputation, wealth. Maybe I can be a better guy or girl so that I can get a better relationship. So maybe this is okay in the beginning, but ultimately that shouldn't be our motivation. So we speak about, and it's important also to have renunciation, not to have this attachment to worldly concerns, to really let go of our attachment to these worldly concerns. And then we speak about the 8 freedoms and the 10 advantages. So it's also good to contemplate these, so that we really rejoice in having them. We think how fortunate we are to have this precious human life. Let me practice not waste a single moment. And those are that we're not born in the realms of the hells, the hungry ghosts, animals, asuras, gods. So why would this be important? It's because if we are born in the hells, there's the hot hells, the cold hells, there's the other hells as well. And in those hells, there's just so much suffering that we don't ever think or even have the time or the possibility to practice the Dharma. Or very little chance, should we say. And the same with the hungry ghosts. They're so hungry. They go hundreds of years without food. They might fight over a little bit of spit. So they're always looking for food. And when they get close to food, it changes. It doesn't seem like food anymore. And so they have great suffering, great anguish. And so they also don't have very little opportunity to practice the Dharma. As animals as well. Sometimes we think animals, what a good life. We see the dogs and we see the cats, people's homes. We think this is okay. Wouldn't it be nice to have a dog's life? But in reality, the life of animals has got a lot of suffering. Also there's ignorance. They're ignorant. They don't have the ability to really learn and study. Maybe there's some very exceptional animals that do, but most animals, if you teach them mantras or the Dharma, they're not going to remember. What are the chances they're going to be able to recite these mantras again? So for that whole life, they're animals. They have very little chance to change. Maybe if they hear the Dharma, it has benefit for future lives. It does. But for this life, they don't have the wisdom to change, to really transform. Look at it at the monasteries. Maybe Yachin Monastery. How many dogs are there? Some of them have been there maybe 8, 10, 15 years. How much Dharma have they learned? So also, if you go to the monastery, don't be like those dogs. Don't be there and just sit and spend many years there. But the mind, the Dharma doesn't get absorbed into your mind stream. You don't change so much. Then how different are you to those animals? And those animals, those fortunate ones to live in the life of cats and dogs, are very few. Other animals, majority. You look at the insects, look at the ants. There's so many of those animals. There's really so many animals. Use your life meaningfully. Ants also think that their life is meaningful. So really, find what is meaningful and then really practice what is meaningful. The animals are worried that other animals are going to catch them, going to eat them, going to attack them. They're looking how to protect themselves. A lot of animals are fear of predators. Many animals, there's so much suffering. Go to slaughterhouses. Imagine their suffering. Imagine you were an animal and people were just looking at you, thinking, you delicious. I can't wait until I get the chance to eat you. Or that, oh, this is wonderful. We're going to make a great profit out of you. Imagine the fear, the suffering of being slaughtered. Some people say, oh, they found ways that the animals don't suffer. I really wonder. I think there's great suffering. Imagine you also in a line waiting to be carved up to be killed. You have a sense of what's going on in front of you. Imagine your fear. Imagine how you'd be trembling. Imagine somebody came and saved your life, gave you a chance to carry on even for a few days. How grateful would you be? Look at the ox in the old days. The animals worked so hard for the owners. At the end of the day, maybe they were slaughtered for all of their hard service. I think I've worked so hard for you and you treat me like this. Or you're a fish. Somebody takes the fish, still alive, and beats its head against a stone, cuts it open. Imagine you're still awake. Or you come around and you're still alive, but your intestines have been ripped out. So there's a lot of suffering. And the gods, sounds like, yeah, this is what I want to be. The land of the gods and the asuras. The asuras, they have many great powers and joys, but they're so jealous of the gods. They want what the gods have, but they're not as strong, so they get beaten by the gods. And they're consumed by jealousy, a lot of suffering. And the gods have pride. And also, they have these great senses, so many sensual enjoyments, that they never think to practice. And they live incredibly long lives. But at the end of those lives, they have the ability to see forward. And they start to see, and they see, oh, I've wasted this life. And they say these gods start to smell, people start to smell the others, and then they don't spend so much time with them because they know, oh, these other gods, their time is ending. And they see, oh, I've wasted this life, I didn't do anything meaningful. All of these joys that I had, I didn't use them to benefit. And so they have great suffering when they leave the realm of the gods. So they have suffering too. And then there is to be born in a land that is uncivilized, or a land of the barbarians. What are they saying here? Is to be born in a place where you can't really practice the Dharma. These places exist. Not so many years ago, in places like during the Cultural Revolution, people weren't allowed to practice the Dharma. Dharma books were burnt. You couldn't, if people saw you mouthing or reciting mantras, people might report you. Your neighbors, even your friends, maybe even your family. Places like this exist today as well. It's very difficult to practice. You're persecuted for practicing the Dharma. At work, you don't tell people, because people might not get the job. Some people used to have to hide when practicing. So this is what we mean by being in a place where it's difficult to practice the Dharma. To have your senses impaired. If they're impaired, of course, it's difficult to practice. Doesn't mean we can't, but maybe it's more difficult to find material to listen to be able to teach, to be able to read, and to have the wrong views. This is the worst, according to the Dharma. To kill, or to steal, or to have sexual misconduct, or any of those negativities. Of course, it's not great, but you can at least be transformed. You can change, you can benefit others, like Milarepa. But if you have the wrong views, then you're going to go in the wrong direction. You're going to move yourself, take yourself further and further away from the very ways or the path that's going to benefit you, to be able to help you to change and transform. So, to have the wrong views is considered a very, very serious thing. So don't have the wrong views. Oh, so first the 10 advantages. The 10 advantages is that you have human life. Alright, so it is very beneficial. With human life, we really have this opportunity to practice. There's enough suffering that returns our mind to the Dharma, and there's enough happiness that we're able to practice, that we have time, we have the ability to practice, and we have the great wisdom, the ability to transform, loving kindness, as we spoke about earlier. Also, in humans there is also a lot of suffering. We think life is great, but some people don't even realize they're suffering. They think that this is just the way it is. Look around, walk around. How many people suffer at work, in relationships? How many people are consumed with negative thoughts, with worries, with dissatisfactions, always wanting, not looking at what they've got, being unhappy because they don't have, instead of being grateful for what they have. People have so much today. They really have a lot, but they don't see it. They're always looking at what they don't have. Or often looking at what they don't have. So it's good not to have a conflicting lifestyle, a lifestyle that is against the Dharma. Especially a way of thinking that's against the Dharma. Being in business that is against the Dharma, that hurts the Dharma. Also have faith in the Dharma. Not to follow false gods, earthly gods. It might be fun, we might get a lot of material benefits, but at the end of the day, we're just going to be distracted. We lose this time, precious human life. We might be discouraged because we may have followed the wrong people. It's a time when the Buddha taught. The Buddha has been present. The teachings still exist. And the Buddha has appeared. And that we have a spiritual friend. So important. It's very difficult these days to pick up the phone and to give Buddha a call. You can do that. How incredible. But at the time of Buddha, we didn't have the arising causes. We didn't know Buddha, so we didn't attain liberation. Or maybe we did, but we didn't practice. Maybe we were like Devadatta, who was by Buddha's side for so many years. But he just didn't attain liberation. He remained in saṃsāra. He thought there's no difference between Buddha and myself. All the theories, everything Buddha talks about, they're all the same. Apart from this great halo around Buddha, there's no difference between Buddha and I. So at the end of the day, he didn't have belief in Buddha. And he ended up staying in saṃsāra. So maybe this is also what happened to us. So now we have a spiritual friend. We have a great teacher like Gelwe Nyugu Rinpoche. We can really follow his teachings. Because he's around, because there are other teachers around, we have this ability to learn, to practice, to hear the Dharma. So with all of these, it's very important that we keep on working, that we don't waste our time. We practice moment by moment. Maintain positivity, increasing our positive actions, merit for the future. All in the now. Practice in the moment by moment practice. And aim towards, stay on the path to enlightenment. And also in this as well, also other things to consider. There's the 16 more points, the 8 incompatible propensities. Those are, and we mix them together with the 8 intrinsic circumstances that we don't practice. So sometimes people don't practice because they're too tightly bound to their worldly concerns, to wealth, to pleasure, to relationships, and also their afflictive emotions. Too much ignorance, pride or jealousy, attachment, aversion. Sometimes they think, I really need to change. I really want to transform and practice the Dharma. But then they forget and they get caught up in their 5 afflictions or the worldly concerns. And then they don't practice. Some people just don't want to improve. Some people really, it's so difficult to improve. They work so hard at trying to improve, but at the end of the day, they still don't believe in cause and effect. They have no faith in their teacher. They feel disillusioned. Others have no interest at all in the lower realms, of the suffering of the lower realms. Don't want to be liberated from samsara. No faith in the Dharma or the teachers. Others take pleasure in doing harmful things, negative things. Turns them away from the Dharma. They break their vows, their commitments, and then they cause problems for themselves and for their Dharma brothers. This also turns them away from the Dharma. Others really take pleasure in hurting other people. Sometimes people are too lazy. They have the opportunity, but they don't practice. They follow false teachers. Others are in servitude. They're dominated by other people. They don't have the opportunity to practice. Or they're in relationships or in work where others don't allow them to practice. And so because they don't want to either upset the other people, so they don't practice, or the other people just won't allow them to practice. Others are imposters. So they're there, they pretend to be practicing the Dharma, but what they're really doing for is financial, material, reputation, other types of gains. So these are all obstacles. Doesn't mean because we have these that we'll never be able to know the Dharma. Everybody has the opportunity. Everybody has Buddha nature. But these are just some of the points that make it just more difficult, give us obstacles in being able to practice. So if we have any of these, really pray, really make aspirations that we can overcome these obstacles. And that we can really practice. We see, for many people, just an example of this is just how tightly bound people are to worldly concerns. Practice the Dharma or go to a birthday party. Oh, let me think of, okay, off to the birthday party. See, people have attachment to these worldly concerns. These worldly concerns are still more important to them than practicing the Dharma. So, really do our best to aspire to really be able to have all the advantages and freedoms to practice. And then life is really precious. And the examples of this, having a precious human life. I just recently saw something on, what's it called, this TED Talks. And TED Talks, the scientists, I don't know, scientists or mathematicians that calculated the chance of us having who we are, the special opportunity to be human life. And it was something like 1 in 4 trillion. So this is a mathematically calculated formula that to have this, who we are, this precious human life. So there's the examples in the Dharmas that it's like a turtle coming up from the sea. The turtle is blind. It only comes up from the bottom of the sea once every 100 years. And it comes up to the surface. And on the surface of the ocean, somewhere randomly floating around is this yolk. And the chance of this blind turtle, remember, coming up. And its yolk, its head going into the middle of the yolk, this wooden yolk. What are the chances? So small. This is the chance of having a precious human life. Or, if we use the example of the sands, all the sands of the earth would represent all the hell beings, the number of hell beings, those in the hells. And in comparison to that, just all the sands in the Ganges River would be all of those in comparison to be in the hungry ghosts. Then if we take just a barrel of sand, that's how many animals there are. So look at that comparison. There's such a vast difference in numbers. And then, in comparison to that, just to have on the nail of our finger, to have this precious human life, or to have the reborn as the gods. So it's really rare, really precious to have this human life. Or like throwing peas against the wall and hoping that they stick. So that's as Padmasambhava said. So it's really rare, really precious to have this precious human life. There might be 7.2 billion people on this world, but how many of them really have a precious life? How many of them are really dedicated and practice the Dharma? Like great teachers, like our teacher, like Lama Achuk Rinpoche, like any of the other great teachers. When we have these two, not born in these other realms, rejoice, really rejoice. Contemplate these things. Make it so that we wake up in the morning, we think, yes, I'm so fortunate. I have this precious human life. Let me use it as best as possible. Remember that we're in these different realms. They're just simply, it's not that they're good or they're bad. The result of the Dharma, cause and effect, isn't a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a result. The result of our positive actions or the result of our negative actions. So it's very important that we practice. We're going to meet all kinds of different situations in life. And as we mentioned earlier, it's important that we have practice. That with the practice we can approach, we can meet, we can face these problems in life, these situations in life. Don't just wait until there's a big disaster and then we, as they say, hug Buddha's foot, Say, oh, please help me now, please help me now. And then it's often too late. We're not able to apply the practices. So practice. We never know what's going to happen. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Any event, something might happen that we have to go do something else. There could be a disaster. We could die tomorrow. It could be the end of this precious human life. So watch what we're doing all the time. Use every moment as an opportunity to plant positive seeds. Do positive things. Don't do negative things. Make practice our second nature. Develop these habits of loving kindness and compassion, of mindfulness, awareness. The 6 parameters. Rejoicing in the joy of others. Wishing for them to be free of their suffering. So whatever seeds we plant, this is the fruit we're going to grow. It's the same. If you plant apple seeds, you get apple trees. And watch what you're planting. There's a little seed can create a huge big tree. And from that tree, you can really get so many different, more trees. Look at an apple tree. How many apples does it produce? Sometimes in a good season, that tree is covered with apples. All those potential for more apples. So if it's positive seeds, it can bring great, great benefit. It can multiply many times. But the same if it's negative. The negativity can multiply many, many times. And so, just like in The Little Prince, we have to be so careful. What does he do? He pulls out the baobab trees out of his planet. And very early. Otherwise, if they grow too big, they could split his whole planet apart. So, these negative habits and emotions and deeds, they can really affect our world, our life, our happiness, and that of others. So really watch, pull out those negative seeds as soon as you notice them, as soon as those negative thoughts arise, transform them as quickly as possible. Don't let them grow and become negative actions. And be very careful also when we're watching. Don't criticize other people. Sometimes we want to think, sometimes we think that we're practicing better than other people. As soon as you think this, be very careful. Maybe you've got a little bit of pride. Have confidence in your practice, but don't have pride. You never know who's a bodhisattva, who's practicing. They might be far better than you. Or maybe not. Maybe now they're not. But they might become great, far greater than you, and very quickly. So don't look down on other people. Don't criticize them. They might be the ones. And within a short while, you need their help. They're the ones teaching you, leading you in far better circumstances than you. Everything really changes. The future, things do change. We've all seen it. So be very enthusiastic as well. Enthusiasm sells. Enthusiastic. I've got this opportunity. Practice. Use it well. Practice again and again. Don't waste a minute. You look at these great teachers. They practice all the time. 24 hours. You hear stories. I think it was from Mingyur Rinpoche was saying when he was young, they were listening to their teacher. They were all in front. Their teacher fell asleep while they were reciting a very long text. Then they forgot everything. Not everything. What was the next line? They looked at each other, and just as they stopped, what comes next? Their teacher woke up and told them the next line. All the time he was aware. Heard in other places as well. The great teachers, they are aware 24 hours. Their body might be sleeping, but their mind isn't. Always, they are in practice. But this doesn't mean this is what we have to do right now. Go to sleep, but don't just slump into bed. Lazily. I'm going to sleep as long as I can. Sleep late tomorrow. Rather think, I'm going to sleep now. I'm going to rest well. I'm going to wake up tomorrow enthusiastic. Hopefully I'll wake up tomorrow morning. We never know. And I'm going to use this tomorrow as well as best as possible. Go to sleep. That I can be healthy. That I can have energy to tomorrow. To benefit others. To practice the Dharma. Go to sleep. Visualizing Rinpoche in your heart center. your teacher in your heart center, full of love, kindness, compassion, full of wisdom. Go to sleep like this. Go to sleep in that state. Just before you go to sleep as well, don't spend so much time with the internet or other things. Try and do some practice before you go to sleep, and go to sleep in a peaceful mind, in a peaceful state of mind. This world, this life goes by very quickly, just like a dream. Before you know it, 10, 20, 30 years have gone by. Get to the age of 50. The life is gone like a dream. Time goes very quickly, passes very quickly. What do you have to show for the last 50 years? Just like you sleep at night, go have your dream, you wake up in the morning, the dream is over. What's left of the dream? So, don't take life for granted. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day. We have this great opportunity, this incredible mind. Use it to create great opportunities, benefit. And if you fall down, if things don't work out, get up again and again and again. Don't worry about falling so much or failing. As most important is that you get up again and you continue again. Create these habits, these positive habits. Abilities. Create merit. Enough merit that is going to, it's like a bank account of body, speech and mind, that by creating the merit, the more and more positive things can happen. The more abilities we have to benefit others and to transform. It's like going to a shop. You don't have any money, you can look at what there is, but you can't buy anything. If you don't have the merit, sometimes you want to do things, but there's this obstacle or that obstacle. We need causes and conditions. All the causes and conditions, so many causes and conditions to come together, to have this precious human life, to be able to practice the Dharma. So don't waste it. What do we mean? It's like, if we want to make tea, let's say we go camping, we need to have a kettle or a pot. We need to have the water. We need to have the tea. We need to have fuel. We need to have the lighter. We need to have somebody to light it. Ourselves. We need to have oxygen. All of those have to come together before we can have a cup of tea. And then even if we light it, that nobody comes and knocks it over. Or suddenly something happens to destroy the circumstances. So we need all of these causes and conditions. We need these causes and conditions. So when we have those causes and conditions to practice, really don't waste them. Use them as best as possible. And really, it's better. Listen to the teachings. Go attend teachings. When you attend teachings, rather listen to live teachings. With live teachings, you spend the time to get there. You're more concentrated. You're with like-minded people. You pay more attention. You don't get distracted. If you're at home, you're listening to a video, you multitask. Oh, maybe I'll get this to eat quickly while I'm listening. I'll go get a cup of coffee. Or I'll look at something on the internet quickly. And so we don't fully concentrate on the teachings. So don't multitask when you're listening to teachings. Really be present. Let everything go. Abide in your true nature of mind. Abide in Rigpa. And really listen to those teachings. And then practice again and again, as we said. Complete any training. Learning a language takes time. Any sport, any dancing, singing. Any skill. It takes time. It takes practice. We practice again and again. So put into that practice. Times we're not going to feel like practicing. But even in those times, any time, work through it. Sometimes we don't feel like practicing, but after 5 or 10 minutes, oh, why didn't I think of doing this before? But if we don't start, then we just waste the time. And there can be many ways. We can procrastinate. We spoke about being lazy. When we procrastinate, we stop ourselves. Or when we don't have confidence, then we don't start. I've really met people. They're really interested in the Dharma, they're actually involved in the Dharma, but they don't start to practice. Something has happened and they're too scared to practice. So these things can happen. Really go in, practice, start. It's very important to start and then carry on, keep on practicing. Have discipline. Discipline is so important. And don't be so busy. Sometimes we're so busy. It's important to be busy, doing all these things. We don't want to waste a moment. But what are we doing? We're not doing what's important. Doing it on meaningless things. Looking at the internet for 10, 20, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Spending a lot of time doing things that bring no value, no meaning. Really have a look. What am I doing? Is it meaningful? Check yourself 6 times a day. What am I doing? Is it meaningful? Is it on the path that I want to be following? So use this precious human life as best as you can. Use it with great gratitude. Contemplate, have gratitude that you have these opportunities. Have great enthusiasm. And if you really practice like this, you get up every morning. I have this great opportunity. I have this precious human life. This is what I have today. We don't have yesterday. We don't necessarily have tomorrow. What we have is now, the present. And practicing like this can also be a really great cure for depression. So, let's end over there. Let's dedicate these merits. Sonam daye tamja zapanye, tobnye nyepe tranang kacheja, geka nachir balang trupai, tipi tsoli droa sho.